We're all familiar with climate change, and we all know its repercussions. But what really causes it? How do us humans make it worse? And if it's so bad, how do we fix it? My name is Vincent.
And my name is John, and we'll be talking about carbon emissions and what we can do about climate change.
An issue like this requires a lot of brainstorming, and multiple solutions have been conceived to address these issues. We know about photosynthesis and how trees turn our carbon dioxide into breathable oxygen. This idea is behind one solution to mitigate the amount of carbon dioxide by planting a massive amount of trees in the Sahara Desert, which as it stands doesn't contribute much to the environment. The basics of the plan are to plant fast-growing and adaptive trees like eucalyptus into the Sahara Desert and help them with irrigation systems. Doing this would completely morph the geology of the environment and have new weather patterns and ecosystems. Obviously, covering the entire Sahara Desert is pretty ambitious. A project of this magnitude would greatly lower CO2 emissions and help mitigate the issue of climate change. Some argue this solution is impossible because of how expensive it is. All the net resources would cost an estimated $1.9 trillion per year, which is an ungodly number when compared to some other plans. But the reward for this project more than matched the expenses, and there is an innovative way to distribute the cost of it. If we were to make this plan a part of the Paris Agreement, all countries of the UN would have to contribute adequately paying for the project and making use of the Paris Agreement.
Yet another popular way to fight this global issue is to cut carbon emissions directly by converting to green energy. This particular solution directly combats the growing carbon concentration that contributes to global warming. This would be a massive step forward, as 27% of our emissions are directly from electricity, only second to the massive 28% on transportation emissions. Emissions and the carbon concentration in our atmosphere and a lack of trees is a massive problem. To put it simply, we're all gonna These emissions of greenhouse gases contribute to the trapping of heat from the sun that causes the phenomena of climate change. We're still gonna die.
We all know the grave consequences of global warming, those being massive floods, rising sea levels, massive droughts, and amplified and more frequent natural disasters all around the world. These massive and ever-strengthening natural disasters would not only cost us more damage to infrastructure than actually fixing global warming, but it would also ruin and end millions and billions of lives, humans and animals alike.
We should all care about fixing the climate, and people are already spearheading projects to do so. These groups and individuals are green energy companies such as Solar City, who develop better and better solar panels, and those who are spreading ideas and solutions like environmentalist groups and individuals. Such individuals are Team Tree's lead Jimmy Dolson, who goes by Mr. Beast, Bill and Melinda Gates, Leonardo Orostin, Igor Enilov, David Rind. There's also Greta Thunberg and her supporters, and hopefully world leaders too are doing their part in this global crisis.
To go about fixing climate change is super difficult, and the main thing to do is cut out emissions. We need to aim for true zero, where we don't emit any emissions. That's why we need a combination of solutions. Planting trees, building green energy systems, and overall being efficient and courteous about our carbon footprints. All of those are ways that we can try to get to that goal of true zero emissions.
Some say limiting emissions is bad for business and the economy. Statistics show that trying to reverse climate change will be nearly impossible and costly, as it requires contribution on a global scale. Cutting down on emissions would mean making factories less efficient or limiting production, both forcing businesses to lose profit.
It is true that we, the consumers, are preventing this. The modern world needs to run in fossil fuels, but we need to quickly transition to zero emission, as this way of life is not sustainable. It rarely differs from region to region. Many developed countries have businesses who wouldn't want to risk their companies to fight something as difficult as climate change alone, and their competitors who don't care about the environment would have the upper hand. The opposition prioritizes things such as economic plans to expand on the benefits and ways to industrialize, but we shouldn't really grow on the problem. Many of these people really think that climate change is either a hoax or a small, non-existent problem, while disaster after disaster destroy many of our homes, and fact after fact proving the detrimental effects on our ecosystems and atmosphere. Climate change is a serious problem, and no matter what the imposing incentive is, we shouldn't doom future generations to come up with a solution to this mess.
These solutions could really save the world. Cutting down in emissions, planting trees to reverse our past emissions will bring us closer to true zero. With this, we would have better air quality, less carbon dioxide, and a way to put an end to climate change. This would save the Arctic, the Antarctic, the coastline regions, coastline companies, island nations, and basically all of Earth. The consequences of these solutions is that the companies who need to cut emissions would suffer the most. It would cost them less profits, disadvantages in competitive markets, and this would be a high risk, low reward scenario. But we must fight, and many are already doing so. On a local level, our people in Hawaii have started the Blue Zones initiative.
Blue Zones Project is a community-wide well-being improvement initiative that helps make healthier choices easier for everyone in Hawaii.
The power of nine, as they call it, represents the 9 healthy factors that contribute to a healthy environment people live in. They advocate for healthy lifestyles and even programs that directly and indirectly fight climate change. Overall, they advocate for a natural and healthy lifestyles in Hawaii.
Once these projects are set in motion, anyone could offer volunteer work or additional funding. But until then, people can provide public support. An idea like this isn't going to act upon itself, and leaders will not acknowledge it unless there is significant public backing. The best way to provide public support is to spread the idea around. Show it to friends, family, coworkers, even strangers could spread awareness. The more people know about it and support the idea, the more likely it is to come to reality.
Everyday citizens could help by saving electricity, being efficient while driving, not buying as much processed goods, recycling, and pressuring for more reforms to cut emissions. Business owners could contribute by planting trees around their carbon resources, shutting down factories, implementing ways to cut emissions, and producing less goods would help tremendously to cut emissions.
Governments have the biggest impact out of everyone and could propose limits, laws, and make consequences and fines. Bonus points if the fines finance against the fight against climate change.